next lesson is on reflections. My personal favorite. I don't know why. I just enjoy reflections. There's really two ways you can do this. You can use, again, logic and common sense to kind of just see where the point is going to be, knowing that you're reflecting the point over a certain line of reflection. Or you can use some math skills that'll help you out, because you can actually use, you can count based on where the point is to where its reflection would be. Okay, so I'll show you both ways. So first, again, let's read the question. We got our coordinate plane here. It says click to add points. So we're gonna be placing some points on this. Since we're reflecting 1 point, it looks like P. Depending on where we're reflecting it, we're probably only gonna add 1 point. Plot the image of point P under a reflection across the y-axis. Right here where it says across the y-axis, that's important because that tells me that the y-axis here is what I'm reflecting. That's my mirror. Okay, so where's the reflection going to end up? It's going to be over here because it's always going to be over on the other side of it. A lot of times students will read the question, but they'll always assume it's the x-axis, and they'll always want to flip over the x, or the other way around. They'll always assume it's the y. Okay, so sometimes it is the x, sometimes it is the y, but you've got to read it. If you don't read it and you don't specify which one it is, you're going to get it wrong. Okay, you can do everything else right, but if you use the wrong line of reflection, you're going to get it wrong. So plot the image of point P under a reflection across the y-axis. Here's my y-axis. Now, like I said, I can just place it, okay, on the other side based on where it is. So what I usually do is I say, well, if I'm going to be on the mirror image, I'm going to be over here, and then I just count from the y-axis. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over. I could have just looked on the x-axis, -6. So I moved 6 this way to the left. If I were reflecting it over this line, I'd be going 6 to the right. Okay, so I can put my point right there. And I got it. Next question. So it's pretty simple. Now here's one. It's not exactly on a coordinate plane, but we have a grid and we have a line here. So it says plot the image of point B under the reflection across line M. So again, you got to be careful. Where am I reflecting? So here's my line of reflection. So this B is going to flip over here. Okay, but where is it going to go? Well, in this one, I don't have any numbers. So again, I'm going to do that strategy where I go from the line. I'm going to always be directly across, but I got to count how far. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So again, I go 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. So I'm right there. Okay, good. All right, this one looks a little different. Now, no coordinate plane, okay, but they do give us some information. They say point P. Now there's a little apostrophe there. That means point P prime, as in that's the image of the original. Okay, so point P prime is the image of P, which is at 3, 5, under a reflection across the y-axis. Okay, so what are the coordinates of that point P prime? Well, let's think about that. If we have a coordinate grid, and we are at 0.35, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, there's a point, and we're reflecting over the y-axis, so we're going, our line of reflection is the y-axis. Now, I could just start at 5 and count over 3, but I want to think about, well, what does it actually mean? Well, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here's my prime, okay? Move the camera a little. So there's my point, I think it was P and P prime. Okay, great. Well, let's think about this point. This is 3, 5, okay? And we reflect over the y-axis, and now it becomes -3, 5. Okay, so what we can do is kind of look at the numbers and say, well, wait a minute. If I'm in positive, positive, right? Quadrant 1 is positive, positive. Okay, and I am reflecting into quadrant 2, which is negative, positive. Well, then my coordinates are going to be basically the same. However, I'm going to be negative positive instead of positive positive. Now let's just say we're going over the x-axis. Let's test that theory. So if it were point P is reflected over the x-axis, well, this is quadrant 4 and it is positive negative, right? So that means I should have the same point, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? But my point should be not just 3, 5, it should be 3, negative 5. And let's just test that. We went over 3, we went down 5, so hey, it worked. So what you can do is you can just say, well, it's gonna be the same coordinate that tells me here that this point here, if I reflected it, say I reflected it across the origin, you know, diagonally, which we could do, say there were a line like that, and we flipped it diagonally, it would be again at 3, 5. But now we think, well, the quadrant is going to be negative, negative, so I should have negative 3, negative 5, okay? That might be a little confusing, but, you know, that's like the mathematical way to think about it, and then there's the logic way to think about it. So when I put in my answer, I should be putting in negative 3, positive 5. All right. And then this one's another coordinate grid, which I think you can handle now on your own. Good luck.